What was your favorite part?
Good or Katari.
My good friend is from. I would love that. She's from Columbia and she went home, December, and she is not back. She sends me good morning and Spanish every day, and she says she's fine, with family. I said, oh, I hope she can come back. She's a citizen, but, yeah, Columbia. And the vendors. Oh my God, and there's a person, he ate us here. Oh, Diana. I know. And there's the prison. So you're gonna be out of something. I do everything. Oh, no problem. I have everything. You're talking about. That's, yeah. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Nice.
Good morning.
Brian.
Yes.
Are you a Trudeau committee?
That's
Yeah,
my grandmother's Virginia, his sister, his older sister.
well, I had all those kids, but my father, that was the first year I thought I did.
Yeah, yeah,
Broke
my uncle Eddie is probably around there.
and,
Yes, I'm gonna hear that. Heard it.
they're probably in a whole bunch of those guys.
Yeah.
Second year was colder.
Good.
First year I was nice.
First year teaching was always rough.
Oh, yeah.
It's always rough.
Nice year.
Yeah, I don't think we should other picture have it is.
As a kid. Oh. I would like to call this meeting to order to establish a quorum. Roll call, please.
Madam Chair, Dr. Phyllis Martinez.
Yeah, here.
Madam Vice Chair, Luis Portillo.
Present.
Secretary, Mark Dominguez.
Present.
Trustee, Andrea Santi.
Present.
Trustee, Richard B. Hill. Trustee, Rolando Medrano.
Here.
Trustee, Rosalie Ortega.
Thank you. Would you read the notice of meeting, please? Yes, Vice Chair Portillo.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, March 17, 2025. This is a special session Board of Trustees meeting of the Luna Community College Board of Trustees. Notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Luna Community College Open Meetings Act resolution. The agenda was posted at least 72 hours in advance of today's meeting at the office of the president and on the Luna Community College website at www.luna.edu. Any person who requires any special accommodations to attend or participate may contact the Luna Community College president at 505-454-2500 or 1-800-588-7232, extension 1000 for assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. And could I have, Dr. Romero lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Before we read, well, we probably need to approve the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Chair, I make a motion that we accept the agenda. Approved.
Thank you very much. We have a second. Roll call, please.
Madam Chair, Dr. Phyllis Martinez.
Yes.
Madam Vice Chair, Luis Portillo.
Yes.
Secretary, Mark Dominguez.
Yes.
Trustee, Andrea Santi.
No. For the reason that I thought this meeting was to discuss Dr. Rivers' girlfriend. Thank you.
Trustee, Richard B. Hill. Trustee Rolando Medrano,
Yes.
trustee Rosalie Ortega,
Thank you. The ayes have it. Good morning, esteemed fellow trustees and members of the audience. Thank you for your presence today. The purpose of this special meeting is to give the president an opportunity to present on the accomplishments and progress or goals that have been compiled from LCC board policy and the president's contract. This will meet the requirements in the contract, and I'm reading exactly from her contract. Thereafter, within 45 days, the board shall conduct written reviews of the president's job performance, which shall include meetings between the president and the board for the sole purpose of reviewing such objectives, duties, and responsibilities. Such reviews may include prioritizing job objectives and establishing timetables and resources for completion of such objectives, duties, and responsibilities. And that came directly from her contract. Dr. Linder was given the form, after which she reviewed and revised it as per recommendations from the Luna Community College attorney. The agenda includes a presentation by Dr. Linder, after which the meeting will be adjourned. After adjournment, board members will rate the president on forms they will be given and provided to the vice chair and the chair to tally and average. Dr. Linder will be provided a copy of the average. Thank you. Instructions are written clearly on the form. As per policy, public comment is only applicable to regular board meetings. And at this time, I will pass the forms to each board member, and then you can begin on to and one read. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, President Bowles' presentation, Dr. Linder. Thank you.
I realized last week when Christy, our HR director, was giving her presentation, that it's really difficult that we don't have a presentation that goes out to people in the audience. And so IT is working on that. And so I think one of the things that the board talked about is having more presentations. And so I think it would be helpful if you had to do that. I am going to give this presentation this afternoon, but I have done this before, so you could do this. You could come and sit up here if you wanted to see the presentation, that's fine. But I will show it this
Too
afternoon.
bad you don't have a big TV up here to project. An idea.
I don't know if we want to block those windows. So anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to present to the board. I wanted to just share a little bit of background about myself that some people may or may not know. I'm from Espanola, New Mexico, and I know that people don't think that. I was out of the state for about 15 years and moved back to Las Vegas in 1997, and I moved from Maine. So people thought that I came from Maine, but I actually was raised in Espanola, New Mexico. I did my undergraduate training at University of New Mexico. I actually played basketball at University of New Mexico and was a PE major. And then I went to University of Texas at Austin and got my master's in exercise physiology, and then took a cell biology course and switched over and got my PhD in biological sciences, and did my postdoctoral research at Washington State University and Oregon State University. And then I did a master's in business administration with a concentration in finance that I completed in 2021 from New Mexico Highlands University. And this is one thing that I think is really valuable about all of our opportunities here at Luna, but also at Highlands, is that you have the opportunity to complete a degree if you're an employee at that institution. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. So I think that's a really good thing. In terms of my professional experience, I'm just going to highlight that I have 10 years experience where I worked as a scientist and an educator at a research institute in Bar Harbor, Maine, that did mouse genetics and sold mice for biomedical research all over the world. And I had the opportunity to travel all over the world in that position. I then became a professor at Highlands University, and I was at Highlands University as a biology professor for 16 years and also an administrator at Highlands. I spent a year at East Central University as the vice president of academic affairs. And then I came to Luna in 2021, October 2021, as an academic director, was in that role for about 2 years, and then took over the vice president of finance and administration position, and then assumed the presidency in June 2024. I have been an active member of the Las Vegas community since 1997 and raised my kids in this community. And I tell everybody that my kids are who they are today because of this community. And I appreciate the opportunities. One thing I can say about my background, starting out as a basketball player and PE major and becoming a PhD level scientist and getting an MBA, is that I never said no to an opportunity. And that's one of the things that I love about Luna Community College, is our motto, creating opportunities for you.
Excuse me, I would like to make sure that, the secretary documents that, trustee Hill is here.
I apologize, I'm president.
No problem.
I'm chairman, I'm president, and trustees, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's about 40 items that you're evaluating me on. And at the February meeting, the board came up with the following goals that you would like me to concentrate on, and that's what I focused my presentation on today. Financial compliance assurance, fostering student success and enrollment growth, goals of the executive committee in terms of activities happening on the satellite campuses, the CHESS implementation, student information system implementation, making sure that we ensure quality instruction, which I care very much about, and ensuring that we're doing performance appraisals, student housing, commitment to employee professional development, promoting a positive work environment, and improving morale. There were 2 items on that. I just have combined that for my presentation. Constant and consistent employee recruitment, and executing effective personnel policies and procedures, and maintaining a positive board and president relationship. So we've talked a lot, and last week's board meeting was on the audit, and we have been giving you quite a bit of updates on the audit. I'm not going to spend a significant amount of time on the audit and where we stand. The finance team is all here, and I appreciate all of their work. When I took over as the vice president for finance and administration, we were behind on 2 audits, actually. So I took over in in December of 2023. And at that time, we should have been completing the FY23 audit, and we had not completed the FY21 or 22. So we did get those done within a year, and the team has been working really hard to complete the FY23 audit. No, we finished the FY22 and 23, and we're completing the FY24. And so I think we're on track to get everything to our auditors by April 1st. That's a little bit behind the deadline, but Dr. Shields has done a good job keeping the board updated on that. I want to just point out that definitely not being compliant with our audits is a huge issue. I knew it was an issue when I took over. It was something that I inherited. It is something that we are very committed to, and it is something that not only the state is looking at, our legislators are looking at that, the Higher Learning Commission looks at that, and they all agree that this is a high priority. And I can tell by the work that the finance team has been doing and our consultants that they also agree that that's a high priority. I do want to point out, though, that the Higher Learning Commission, we were on monitoring for our finance and accountability and our audits when they came for our focus visit in November. And they actually did believe that we were making significant progress, and they did take us off all monitoring and said we had met those criteria. The same when we had our enhanced fiscal oversight program monitoring in October. Dr. Shields and I met with the state officials from the higher education department. They also talked about the importance of completing the audit, but they also felt like we were making significant progress. The State Board of Finance, actually, when we met with them to get for our emergency grant funding, they also felt that it was important, but they did not feel that that was a reason to not give us money. And the legislature also felt that as well. And so we were given a $2.8 million emergency grant, and the state did award us general obligation bond and capital outlay projects for this upcoming year. So thanks to everybody on the trustees and everybody at Luna that worked for all of these. It's been definitely a team effort completely all around. Talking about student success a little bit, and these are students actually from dental assisting, and you can't really see it on this, but on their mortarboard, they got dental records on the back and teeth. And so if you want to look at that a little bit more closely on your photo and your presentation, I thought that was interesting. So one of the things that the Legislative Finance Committee does is that they put out performance metrics and give us information. So what was released this year is if you look at our 5-year average in terms of degree completion, we have increased 45%. And last year we had a 10% increase in student completions. In terms of our enrollment, we have had this year the first time we've had enrollment increases. They are significant increases, 3% in the fall, 6.7% in the spring. We definitely continue to work every single day to make sure that we have that. We actually have now hired, I think, a recruitment and admissions manager. I don't know if they've accepted yet.
The offer is up.
The offer is out for recruitment and admissions. And we also have fully staffed financial aid. And I think that with the new staff that we have that are on board and the work that our academic directors are doing in terms of building new programs, I actually think that we'll continue to increase our enrollment. In terms of workforce development, there's a lot of different workforce development going on, but I'm not going to talk about all of that. I do want to just say that I put in this presentation last night, 50 students have completed the CDL with a 97% pass rate. And I learned this morning that it's actually now 54. So shout out to Johnny and to Tracy. Tracy and Johnny are actually going and working with the 8 northern tribes as well in Espanola and doing CDL training with them. And we've also had conversations with Los Alamos National Laboratory and expanding that out. And I should be getting the agreement, what I've been told for the last several weeks, that the agreement to actually become a testing center is with the lawyers at the MVD. There were some changes that needed to be made in that, but we should have that pretty soon. In terms of student support, when I came to Luna as an academic director, there really wasn't, it was really a food desert up here. There was not food. We were opening the cafe, and Ron Duran was offering a few things. And so we got money from the higher education department and we started the Luna Strong program. And we also started mental and behavioral health. And so the timely care that we offer now to not only our students, but to all of our employees is a direct result of grant funding that I sought from the higher education department. And then when that grant funding ended, we did institutionalize. Crystal is here, her position. And so we institutionalized that and put it on our budget. And so we're so thankful for the continued work and the expansion that Crystal and Christino and many people have with the Luna Eats. And Crystal just submitted grant proposals this last Sunday night. We were just talking about that to try to keep that going. And the state is also giving us $20,000 to support Luna Strong and our Luna Eats program. We also have Mary Frances Bibb and many others in the ACE tutoring lab that provide a lot of support. And our student services and all of the people in student services provide a lot of support. So I wanted to just take a few minutes, and I included quite a bit of photos. And just because when you're thinking about sort of student activity in my 4.5 years that I've been at Luna, we were just coming out of the pandemic when I started. And it really has been a struggle. All schools have struggled with getting students back on campus and getting students involved. And I want to say that just in the last year, I've seen a huge increase in the number of participants that have helped out with any on-campus event, whether it's a parade, whether it's the trunk or treat, whether it's Luna Day at the legislature, whether it's freshman orientation, whether it's graduation, whether we're celebrating adult basic education day. So just kind of pointing out these, and I don't know which was my pointer on this thing right here. I don't know, right here, I guess is my pointer. But we've got a lot of different activities that are really highlighting. And the art student in the middle, Leota Harriman, actually had a great what do you call it?
Our display.
Art display, thank you, art display,
I
before
read on your
Christmas.
report, you know.
And, anyway, and so that was very exciting. You can't really necessarily read everything on this slide, but in March and April, we will be having CDL and taking up our heavy equipment simulator up to Springer and having CDL in Raton area and in the Springer area. We did, the bottom left-hand photo is the photo of our Adobe model home project, and that is definitely something that was our first project for workforce development for NM Grow, and really successful. I thought that it should be the president's home, but it doesn't have any plumbing. So, but it does have heat because it has solar. So looking at that.
Back to the old days.
Yeah, anyway, so we also have redone our community education, and we have a new software called Modern Campus for non-credit. And I don't have time to talk about it today, but how we track students that are non-credit and doing workforce development. We were tracking it in our legacy Gensibor system, and that was really problematic. And so we have moved to this Modern Campus new software for workforce development and community ed, and Karen Torres and Mary Frances Bibb and Cassandra Vigil, a lot of other people have been working on that, and I think that's been really successful. And we've converted to this new model of community education this spring. So we have had significant increase in activity at the campuses. And I think a lot of people hear every month about our Rough Rider mentorship program, and we've highlighted that both in our Luna Light and in the Optic. And these are just photos of students. I believe this is actually Springer, and I think that that's Springer. And we have some students that are alive and some students that have already passed, and so you can see the skeleton in the back. We did have the small business management certificate at the Guadalupe Correction Facility. Classes started, what's today, Tuesday? They started yesterday. We have 10 students enrolled. And so a lot of work done by Dr. Romero and Ticey and all the Department of Corrections. The community garden effort that Sherry's been doing, and actually on the main campus in Springer, in Santa Rosa, in Mora, it will be this community garden, and looking at that, and the students in that summer program participating in that is an idea that people had with Crystal and early people on the Luna Strong. And I'm excited to see that that's really taking off. And even our preschool is now a scratch kitchen. And so thanks to Ticey for all her work and getting the preschool a greenhouse, and those kids are eating a lot more vegetables than probably my kids ate at that age. In the bottom left is the Mora Hauser Raspberry Ranch event, the foundation and several trustees and several people that went to, Dr. Romero went to. And then on the bottom right is the Department of Corrections at Springer, that we had the wildfire resiliency training fire. Okay, Dr. Romero, what was the fire?
So it's an S-190, it's the intro to Guadalupe.
S-190 that they took last fall, and the director, Hank Blackwell, says that we're set to start in Guadalupe Correction Center and also Roswell for these classes in June. We also do have we have an MOU with Santa Rosa for the high school students to use the woodworking facility that's in Santa Rosa. It's an amazingly beautiful space that hasn't been used in more than 6 years. And so I'm excited that the Santa Rosa high school students are using that. And I'm happy for all the work that Alejandro has done in terms of our dual credit outreach and our partnerships. And we're looking forward to expanding those on more. In terms of chess, I've also talked quite a bit about chess, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time today, but I do want to recognize that we have over 25 employees that are working on this Workday implementation, and there are over 20 functional and governance teams. And they meet anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week to weekly to monthly, depending on what team they are, depending on what work it is going on. Currently, when we met, Tanya and I met with the cabinet secretary and deputy secretary, cabinet secretary in December. One of the things that they asked us was whether Luna was keeping up. Are we keeping up because we're so small? They had heard that we wouldn't be able to keep up with this implementation. And I want to say that our team is keeping up, they're participating. They have done an amazing job and they're meeting the milestones, they're working over their breaks. They're here, they're committed. The next 2 years are really the most critical, year and a half. We go live in September of 2027. Right now, all of the testing that we're doing right now, and I kind of gave you a bottom left-hand, I have a slide presentation that's about 10 slides that gives you what is happening every month and all the deadlines. And so you can just see that there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happening. And what we're doing right now determines if we're going to be successful in September of 2027. And because this is going to go live in September of 2027, when we're admitting students in this fall, we need to be ready to admit students into this new student information system. And so everything that we're doing now and the work over in September of 2020, September 21st, 2026, and also is our deadlines that we have to be ready to admit students into this and then have testing. And then at the end of October, we'll have what's called a mock semester, and we'll have actually students, real students, and have them using that system, working with our team. And then we will then really see what mistakes we've had, what we've done. And one of the things when we went live with the finance ERP and when we went live with HCM, we did that in a year. This we've taken 4 years, one, because it's a lot bigger, but we also realized that we needed to make sure that we were getting everything right. Because there are still frustrations with our Workday system. There are still things that we're trying to get squared away in terms of our HCM model and our finance and learn everything. And employees are frustrated. We're really doing the best that we can. I think the people, when HLC was here, they asked the question about, you know, what is the differences between Workday and Gensibar? And I think almost all the finance team, actually, most of them only ever worked in Workday. So they were like, this is great. And they didn't remember what it was like pre-Gensibar. And so I'm like, a lot of us remember what that was like in terms of doing procurement, doing any of those things. It is a lot better. You can see every bit of documentation. If you want to know where's that documentation for that order, whatever, it's all in the system. You're not having to go find some paper trail. And look at that. So that's really been amazing. But when we go live for the student, we are now affecting students, right? So employees, we're understanding. We understand that students, they want it to work. And so one of the things that Chess is doing is we're actually visiting a lot of schools, not me personally, but the Chess team are visiting schools that have already implemented the student information services. We visited Dallas College 2 weeks ago. And last week, Dr. Day and 3 other people from Chess went to a conference in South Carolina and talked to the schools that had implemented to try to get best practices and learn. And then that is all coming back to us. So there's a lot of work that's been done in that area. In terms of ensuring quality instruction, I know this was a concern of the board. And what we do to ensure quality instruction is not just doing performance appraisals at the end of the year. Actually, there is stuff that's happening all year round. Dr. Romero meets with her academic directors every month. I think every month, once a month. We have directors meetings once a month. We talk about a lot of things. Academic directors observe classes. If they are asynchronous classes, they go in and look at that shell. They're looking at that. They do that. Last year, all the faculty, all full-time faculty did receive an evaluation. And 91% of overall employees received, if they were part-time and full-time, received an evaluation. Faculty also are required to participate in 4 weeks of in-service professional development annually, a week before we start school, a week after we finish the semester, the week before we start in the spring, and then a week after. And so there's different professional development that happens at that time. The other thing that was started prior to me starting at Luna, but I think when we went live mostly online because of COVID, is that we do this Quality Matters certification in terms of our online education. This week, we actually, today and tomorrow, we have Blackboard training that all the faculty, anybody that's teaching with Blackboard is participating in that training. We went live with a new bookstore module. All the faculty participated in that training. They have regular coffee connects, and then we had the assessment summit. First time ever had an assessment summit in January, and that was thanks to our HLC Assessment Academy team that's called ARC. And I don't remember what that acronym stands for.
Dr. Linder, do you mind any questions?
Sure.
Anybody have a question? I have one. Do you know the percentage of the staff that have participated in the professional development offhand?
So I have another slide on that, so let me just go on that and then I can maybe answer that question. So student housing, again, I'm giving you weekly updates on the student housing. We talked about student housing last week. We did secure housing for this academic year. We had less than 2 weeks to figure out what we were going to do with housing. And so the last 9 months have been really, really stressful trying to figure out a solution for our students that's going to be long-term. One thing I want to note is that student housing on this campus is not a new conversation. It's a conversation that's been around for a long time, right? When I talked to Senator Campos, he said, oh, I was trying to do that when I was there. In fact, we found a lot of notes back from those days to figure out what was being done when we started baseball and softball. People recognized it would be nice to have housing. This is something actually that Dr. Martinez and Dr. Day worked on as well, and worked on a plan after COVID to sort of design housing and try to get funding for housing. And it came sort of to a head when we had the situation where our students didn't have housing last fall, which I'm happy about. So I'm happy that after probably 20 years of thinking about housing that we are going to realize that. So we do have some funding. We're going to need to get more funding. We're looking at different opportunities. Tanya's looking at congressionally directed spending requests. She's talked to our the people that work for our representatives in Washington to see what opportunities, and then there is money available that was passed in this most recent legislation that we would also be eligible to apply for. We're currently working on contractors. I was hoping that we would get housing by the fall, and but it just is not going to happen with everything that needs to happen before that time. And so we are currently working on figuring out a plan for fall housing, and I'm happy to answer questions about student housing.
So if it's not gonna happen fall, what's your projection?
January. Yeah. And I didn't include a slide in here, but in my weekly report and in my board report, I included the timeline, and definitely we should have housing. We're on track to have housing by January.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the housing that for office for our students, where are they gonna be placed?
So I'm still working on that. I've talked to Highlands University and I have a meeting with the president tomorrow. And so I don't know that I'll get an answer actually by tomorrow. I doubt that I will, but I do have a meeting with the president tomorrow. He was away for spring break. He went to Hawaii. I didn't get to go to Hawaii for spring break, but anyway, but I've also talked to the Super 8, and the Super 8 has rooms if we need it at the Super 8 as well. And so that was a good relationship. They were very, very, Rosemary Sanchez was just so gracious, and our security guards went, and our coaches filled in. And so I think that it definitely was more expensive than the housing at Highlands, but those are the two options we're looking at right now. And if those don't work out, then we have other options. But I have talked to Super 8, and they do have housing for us if we need it. And yes.
One more question. On the January 1st, 2027, that is tied, according to your report, it's tied to the funding, right?
So you mean we need to spend it by that time? Yes, so our money is reverting, this emergency grant money is set, we have that for a year. Thank you.
So January 1st.
Right.
Whatever. Thank you.
Now, I really want to make that deadline, but I will say that every project that happens on a campus, always things come up. I think this is a fairly straightforward project. I've had a lot of meetings with our architects and a lot of meetings with our time. But if there is a need for an extension, that would also be a possibility. Okay, so Dr. Martinez, you had a question about professional development. What?
Here's my question now.
Yeah, okay. So right now, and Christy will say that we have 241 or 61, I don't remember. I didn't look, I meant to look up that employees. A lot of those are student employees and work study and other people that aren't regular. I know that I approve the payroll every month. I mean, every 2 weeks that we get that, and we have 211 that we typically pay. 211 that we typically pay every 2 weeks. And so, out of that, I didn't do this, but you can do this percentage, 133 employees have reported that they've done professional development. That does not mean that the other ones have not. These are the people that have self-reported, and I've been reporting that every week. We put it out there a month ago when you put this out as a goal, and the employees have been really, really responsive. And so everybody is required to do annual training and cybersecurity training, all of the FERPA training, all of those things. And our HR department does track that. But in terms of what was self-reported on here, it was 133 for a total of 376 different activities and 268 different trainings. And so the 376 counts FERPA, or safety training, or Title IX training, or that sort of thing. The 268 means that's how many different types of trainings people did. And that can be anywhere from pursuing an advanced degree as part of Luna, a post-secondary degree, I should say, post-secondary degree, getting a certificate. Jean Martinez actually got certified to be a welding tester or something. He went to Florida for that testing. This year, that's something that he's wanted to do for a long time, going to conferences, doing different things like that. And just participating in a webinar, participating in like this Blackboard training that people are doing now. So that's more than double the number of students that reported it last year. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, about why we started tracking this last year, but we did actually start tracking the professional development last year, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes.
And so maybe around 65% of your staff.
Reported.
Self-reported.
Self-reported.
Thank you.
Right.
I did the math.
Thank you. So, and I think everybody in this room agrees that one of the things that we're committed to is professional development. It strengthens our employee credentials and our effectiveness, expands industry-aligned workforce training capacity, advances accreditation and assessment culture, builds instruction, cybersecurity and technology resilience, and demonstrates our continuous improvement to professional excellence. And this is something that was noted by the HLC when they came for the focus visit. And so I think that that's something that they have been considered. And professional, I think prior to 2021, I think there was a period of time, and it was COVID and different things, nobody traveled for a period of time. And I don't know if it was only for COVID or not, but we do have a professional development fund that's under Dr. Romero's budget line. She approves those. And so she actually controls if people want to go to a conference, if they have an idea or training that they want, they just need to ask her, and then she will approve it. And she's actually asked for an increase in that budget for next year.
Secretary Dominguez.
President Ender stated that Dr. Romero carries that burden of approving or disapproving. And you stated in your professional development that people must get their training on their own.
That what?
You stated that people must get their training on their own.
No, I didn't
You
state
stated
that.
verbatim, you said that, but anyways, so my assumption is that no assessment was done on either a department or a director, as to what professional development would impact either the institution, self, but more importantly, the student. Can you explain that, please?
So, if I don't really believe that I spoke that I said, what I said was is employees self-reported the professional development that they're doing. All employees have the opportunity and get the support of their supervisor. And that is one of the things that we talked about. And so I've also reported that we have really done a good job sending employees to HLC. So in the last 5 years, I think that what we've tried to do is not only send the president, a lot of schools only send the president and maybe a VP and a couple trustees to the Higher Learning Commission and maybe your ALO. What we have committed is actually trying to make sure, because accreditation is so central to who we are. We have said, let's send a faculty member, let's send a director, let's send a professional director. And so this is one of the things that we have done, and I don't know those numbers exactly, and I can get that. But we have done that and sent that. So over the last 5 years, we actually have had a lot of our employees that have participated in the Higher Learning Commission. We also have had the Higher Education Department provides a lot of training. And there are other organizations, nursing students get training through that. Registrars get training through their organizations. And so a lot of training is free. All of the training that we offer on campus is all completely free. But as part of the evaluation that academic directors go through is that they actually do list the professional training that they do. And they talk about what do they need. And so that is actually a conversation that Dr. Romero and I just had yesterday in looking. So this year, and I'll talk about this in a few minutes, this year, Christy talked about this last week when she talked about HR. She said she wanted employees to actually do a self-evaluation in this month. And last Monday, she had a training for all employees. It wasn't required. We're not requiring employees to do this. But as we move to a new evaluation tool next year in Workday, one of the things you're going to do is set out your goals for the year, set out what your plans are, and look at that. And again, I do think a lot of times employees are harder on themselves than supervisors are, but I think it's good for them to self-reflect. So absolutely, directors and employees participate in their professional development. But then the other thing that we're looking at is we talked about, Christy talked about this, and I have it on a future slide, as supervisor accountability training. And so we realized that a lot of people have been moved into supervisor positions and haven't gotten all the training that they need. And so that is something that Christy is starting with all supervisors. And it could be something that we say that one supervisor says, I think you should take this, but it would be open to all employees with that. I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
You went in a roundabout way, but
Okay,
there is some training, but not everybody direction by you. Thank you.
However, you did say that you're implementing a new system so that everyone.
so I have directed all of this as president. And what I've done is try to hire people that can actually do their jobs. And so I think absolutely, and every single email that was sent out about professional development, who did it come from? Me. Every single campus-wide meeting, when I've talked about professional development, who did that direction come from? Right? Me. So, and if you know anything about me, or you want to learn today, I am a lifelong learner. I have never stopped learning. In any job, I always recognize we need to learn new things. And so I absolutely, just this morning, I sent an article to my leadership team and said that I saw over the weekend that was talking about, it came from the Chronicle for Higher Education, and it was talking about colleges all over the country that have closed. And why are they closing? And they talk about the pandemic, and they talk about the shift, and they talk about overall the country's lack of belief in higher education. And they say, okay, people don't need to go to college. But even for workforce development, and they say you don't need a college degree, that is happening at community colleges. And so Chronicle for Higher Education said, are colleges going to be responsive? Are they going to actually change? Are we looking at that? When we went to ACCT meeting, that's what we heard. When we went to HLC meeting last year, that's what we heard. That's why we go to these meetings, because we want to know, how do you change that? I've gone to the Higher Education Tech Summit every year that I've been involved in administration at Luna. And actually, they scheduled it at the same time as HLC this year. So we have a team that's going to the Higher Education Department, and we have a team that's going to HLC. So we've split that. And so I'm excited about that. So I don't think that I think that my record stands for itself, and I think my communication stands for itself. And I think that this is something that I've always held a standard to for every single person that I've ever supervised, whether it's a student that's doing research in my research lab, whether it's a student that was taking my classes. I never, ever didn't have a conversation about what their goals are, ever. What do you want to do? And what I've said several times since being at Luna is that when I started at Highlands, people told me, you can't expect the level of performance from these students. They don't have the education, they don't have the background, they didn't get a good enough K through 12 education. And I never believed that.
Reverse discrimination is what.
That's right.
amounts to.
And so what I did is I said, now, everybody learns a little bit differently. I implemented universal design in my teaching. And I said, okay, I am changing the way that I'm teaching. And actually, I had never been a professor before. So I don't know why they said that, because I'd never been a professor before. I'd been at a research institute, right? I've been a TA when I was in graduate school. I was a TA at University of Texas, right? And even at University of Texas, I had all pre-med students. And boy, I'll tell you, some of those students, and in Texas at that time, 50% of students who applied to medical school got in, 50%. 1 out of 2 got in. And I'm looking at these Fs on these exams and thinking, oh my God, I don't want to go to a doctor in Texas, right? But they learn, they all learn, right? They're getting those low grades and then you learn. And how do you learn that? And so what I have learned, and coming to Luna, I had to shift. I had to say, okay, your goal may not be medical school, although it may be medical school. One of the baseball players that I advised my first year that I was at Luna, he came and he wanted to be an allied health major. And I'm like, okay, no, you shouldn't be an allied health major. You want to go to medical school. I said, what you need to do is take these classes. And his parents wanted him just to take classes and not play baseball, but he loved baseball. And so he played baseball. He contacted me last summer. I started, that was 4 years later. And he got a 510 on his MCAT, which is going to get him into any medical school that he wants. And he wanted to thank me for the conversations that I had with him in my first year at Luna. Because every time that I talk to somebody, I'm always thinking about, what do you want to do with your life? So, thank you. So the other thing that you guys talked about was really making sure that on campus that we have high morale, that it's a positive place to work. And so we have, I think I skipped a slide.
Yeah. Promotes positive work environment is on ours,
I know, I don't know where that slide is.
page 7. Right after professional development, right after that. No, that's a different.
There's slides that are missing on that.
And they're different.
Just one slide is missing.
I think one slide is missing, and that's okay. I can talk about that, and I have that presentation right here, so I don't know why that slide is missing in the middle of the presentation, but anyway. So one of the things that you were concerned about as a board was whether I was promoting a positive work environment for the employees. And one of the things that has happened every year for the last several years is a campus climate survey. And we will have that again in May. But last year's campus climate survey showed that 92% of employees rated their relationship with coworkers positively. That means they gave a 4 or a 5 out of a 5-point scale. 88% rated their relationships with supervisors positively. 70% reported pride in working at Luna Community College, and 80% felt safe or very safe on campus. And so what this shows is really that we do have employee relationships that are very positive on campus, and we know that. We know that from everything that we do every single day. You can see that in the photos that we have. We do have a collaborative work environment. Luna does work collaboratively. Now, there are people that aren't happy at any organization. There's going to be a time when you disagree with your supervisor, that you aren't able to do the job as your supervisor wants. That happens at any institution. And I think that, but overall, I think that those results show that it's positive. I think then this slide is here. So out of that, those things came up, but the things that were identified that we needed to continue working on, and Christy talked about this last week as well, is communication and transparency and decision-making. And so this is something that we've identified. Workload balance and resource availability, definitely we have been short-staffed. Finance department's been short-staffed, student services department has been short-staffed, we've been short-staffed in faculty, full-time faculty. We have very few full-time faculty. That's something we're trying to change this year in terms of our budgeting and trying to get more full-time faculty. And so that's something that we realize. And then the other thing that came out of that campus climate survey was this opportunities professional growth. And we had a retreat also in the fall, the first fall that I was president, we had a retreat at King Stadium. And we came up with things that, at that time, we came up with things, what can we do immediately? What can we do immediately? How can we make an immediate impact? And then what are those barriers? And so we came up with a whole list of things, and last June, we actually looked at the campus climate survey and we looked at where we were. And said, what have we done and how have we been successful? And so we realized that's why we actually gathered all that professional development last year. We created that, what I created this year, we had created last year. And again, we did that in June. And so not everybody reported. I asked people to report a little bit more if they did something last year that they hadn't recorded, and many people did do that. So we're definitely committed to that. And so what we have talked about, this is something we've been very intentional about, and my leadership has been intentional about. Huddles is something that I started actually when I came as an academic director. And we had huddles with my other academic directors and we did them on Zoom. And I will say that Francisco Apodaca was the person that said, I'm not going to do huddle. I'm not going to do huddle. And then he turned out to be the most faithful huddle participant. And always at huddle, we share a shout out. We always say, okay, a shout out for somebody who's living out the values and the guiding principles of Luna Community College. And so we did that in my academic director huddle. And it was Francisco that said, you know what, we're sharing all these wonderful things and nobody knows. We should put these out. And so I said, okay, so I started those shout outs that actually Denise Fox has now continued. And so, but that was Francisco that said, okay, and he went from saying, we're not going to have huddle, I don't know why we need to have huddle, to being one of the biggest proponents. And that's something that I did in Oklahoma. And I just really, it's something that I did as a VP of finance. And then when I took over as president, I've not made it just my direct reports. Anybody's invited to come, and I would say it depends on the morning. We have it twice a week. We can have anywhere from 15 to 30, just depending on what's going on. Would you say? Yeah. So we also have campus-wide meetings twice a month. We have a monthly directors meeting. One of the things, this is something that previous administrations have done. And one of the things that I did that's different about this is that it is now about the directors sharing what they're doing. So rather than me leading that meeting, I mean, there are some updates that I give in that. It is about the directors each giving 3 to 5 minutes. What's going on? What's happening in your area? What are your initiatives? And every director, it's not just academic directors, every director participates and gives a shout out and gives a report at those directors meeting. We have one tomorrow. We also talked about, we have had the faculty have a Coffee Connects. We're starting one, though I think this is something that came out of Wildfire Resiliency Training Center. We have one tomorrow, is just to have a little bit more connection on campus that's a little bit longer than 10 minutes. And also for people on campus who have never gotten outside their building. So tomorrow morning at 9 to 10:30 is at the Wildfire Resiliency Training Center. And I encourage everybody to go, because when we were doing the tour with Sam Bregman, we got to see the new simulator, and that new simulator for the fire was so cool. It's really very, very cool. So go to that tomorrow. And we also just really work on academic directors, supervisors. That's the other thing is that we said we got communication devices rather than our employees having to use their personal cell phones. They now have communication devices so that we can communicate with them, and they have huddles as well. They get together every morning, figure out what they need to do for the day. And then I've already kind of mentioned the shout outs. We've reestablished the Luna Light. I think the quality of the Luna Light and Amanda Nelson and her team and everybody that's contributed articles to the Luna Light and then submitted those to the paper have been really fantastic.
Excuse me before you go.
Yes.
President Andrew, the academic, the huddles are strictly designated for academic directors only specifically.
No, all employees are invited. All employees are invited to huddle. It's not academic directors, and even our directors meeting aren't just academic directors. Dr. Romero has a meeting with her academic directors because those are her direct supervisors. I mean, they report to her, they're her direct reports. So every Wednesday and Friday, everybody's invited to huddle. It's not mandatory. Come to huddle if you want. People come if they want, and it's just a chance for 10 minutes to get together.
What is it, like coffee and?
No coffee. Well, people get coffee from Ron. People get coffee from Ron. It's 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes. How many people buy coffee from Ron?
Almost an order.
Okay, I don't drink coffee. So I bring my tea, and so I don't, and Ray brings me food every week, every morning, so I don't buy food from that.
For everybody, then it's just not academic specific.
No, it's for everybody. Everybody is invited to huddle. It's not required, and then everybody's invited to campus wide. So, so again, the purpose of these things are increase transparency, improve the communication flow, and provide an opportunity for feedback and shared problem solving. So that's the other thing that that I think my team knows and my leadership team knows. I meet with my leadership team twice a week, Monday and Wednesday mornings. And we meet every week. If there's something that somebody has to be gone, they're gone. But I really rely on my leadership team to make decisions and to look at a group and decide where we need to go. Okay, and also, I mentioned this already, we do have an annual campus climate survey. We are looking and thinking about this as part of the evaluation process. We're going into the evaluation process. Christy spends a lot of time on this. Institutional planning, improvement, initiatives. Every group is working on these sort of independently. The next climate survey is in May. And you know, with an overall goal of improving employee morale, workplace communication, and overall culture. And one of the things that when we went to the ACCT meeting in Seattle and talked about what it takes to change institutional culture, it takes 5 to 7 years to change a culture of work every single day. This is not something that you're going to change overnight. But one thing that I didn't mention earlier, and this is a photo of Larry Pice with Chester, this blow up Chester. And we do have people that win Chester Awards. They're nominated by their peers. And so,
Chester.
yeah, Chester, yeah. So anyway, and so Maverick Modest got the most recent Chester Superstar Award. Other people that have been given that is Rachel.
Denise Gibson.
What? Denise Gibson. Who else?
Rachel.
Yeah, so a lot. And so that is something that in chess that they spend, if they get a certificate, but they get a recognition, they get a photo, they get a shout out. We're looking at that. So I just want to share a few photos. I know I've been taking a lot of time, and so I won't go through these in detail, but these are just photos mostly of parades. Wesley Shipman and I went to Kansas City and he presented for the Wildfire Resiliency Training Center. It's a photo of him. That was the first time that he's ever given a poster presentation. So that was a great opportunity. That's a photo of Dr. Romero that was at Bean Day, right? And then that's just a photo from the academic directors when Dr. Thompson, we had a little celebration for Dr. Thompson when he was retiring. This is the art display exhibition that we had at Christmas. I was sick. I didn't get there. We did have the Luminarias for the first time in many years. And so a lot of work by our physical plant to do that. And that was a great success. And then we did also have the water. And we also have a partnership with the trolley. And they have participated in our several opportunities. Just some other photos from on campus, Veterans Day. Thank you, Gloria, for a really, really wonderful Veterans celebration. That's one of the best celebrations that I've ever been to this past year. And a lot of people just going to Luna Eats and celebrating, a lot of community happens around food. And so that's kind of sharing that. And what I loved about this slide is that it actually, and it just happened this way, that everybody was in a pair. So you got Nicole and Dr. Matthews, you've got Victoria and Devin Chisholm, you've got Trustee Ortega and Dr. Martinez, Chair, and Leslie and Justin, of course, and then Harold Garcia and Kenny. And that was at the Veterans, I think, right? I think that was at the Veterans. And then this is the first time that we've actually had a Luna Day at the legislature. And there was a lot of work, and I appreciate the trustees and Trustee B. Hill and Dr. Martinez, Chair Martinez, and Portillos and Sandy and everybody that came to that. That was a great day. And we had great participation of our foundation. And we have had wonderful participation from our fully staffed Luna Foundation. They've gone to events, they came to the trunk or treat, they're giving scholarships, they're reporting out regularly to the board. And so just a couple other slides. This is the first year that we've also participated in the winter. We were doing the Luminatias, and I called Matt and said, can we also do a display on the Riverwalk? And so he said, yes, we'll get that done. And we got that done on top of the Luminatias. And so that was great. And there's a great photo of Leslie at the State Fair. So Leslie and Dr. Thompson and Justin went to the State Fair. So that was great. And they had a line all the way across the street.
Only one with a line.
We were the only booth with a line because Leslie was so friendly.
What was the swag?
Lots of stuff. We had socks and cups and mugs and chapstick and nail files and the wheel. That's
The biggest thing is we have a wheel and people want to spin the wheel. That's the biggest thing. And I don't know who thought of the wheel. Who thought of the wheel? Who knows?
haven't. I think it was the recruitment and admissions team.
So anyway, it was a great idea. The wheel, okay, you have to sign in, spin the wheel. If you sign up and give us your contact information, then you get that wheel. So
People win a prize or swag.
they get a swag. They get a swag. So they spin and it'll say you get a cup, you get a little chapstick, t-shirt,
Bags and glasses. There was
sunglasses. Yeah, it's great. It's a great, we had it at the legislature as well. So constant and consistent employee recruitment. And I'm not gonna, I know I'm a little bit over on my time. And so I have filled, okay, we filled key leadership positions. We've advertised locally, we've advertised regionally, we've advertised nationally. And I will say I've been involved in a lot of searches at a lot of different institutions. And especially now when you're looking for people to be working in person in a small rural area, recruiting is hard. It's really hard, but we've been really fortunate that we've been able to have a really, I think, when I look at those pools now in Workday, I don't have to call HR to find out who's applied. We can just, any hiring manager can just go into Workday. All of the applicants are right in there. All of the materials can be reviewed in Workday. We get a search committee together. We determine whether the employee meets the minimum qualifications, whether they have a complete application. Do they meet the minimum qualifications for that position? And if they do, we actually do have put together a search committee, which is at least 3 people. And then and it's usually, it depends on who that is. It could be the hiring manager or it's a separate, I don't actually participate in those at that level. I actually have a search committee that does that search. And then we decide whether we're going to bring that position on campus or not, depending on the level of the position. And then they'll interview with a larger group of people. So we've had effective use of that. We have gone to a much more robust reference check software. We also instituted background checks. That wasn't being done. It was done in the past, but it hadn't been done in about 3 or 4 years when I came in as president. And so we instituted background checks. We've really improved the onboarding through Workday Learning, which is a new platform that we have. And so right now Rachel did a great job back in 2023, creating a platform for us to do our annual trainings. That's called the Rough Rider Knowledge Base. And you can go in and you can do just-in-time trainings, or you can do annual trainings there. And those Mavericks, working with Jeff and the IT team to transition all those over to our workday learning training environment. And so I filled, Christy talked about this last year. I think she said that she had filled 70 positions since she's been here in the last 9 months. A lot of those were ACE tutoring lab students. I think we filled a lot, but we've also hired the financial aid office. I hired Dr. Romero. We hired Michael Montoya. We hired Christy as the HR director. We hired Ryan Costa Hayes as the financial aid director. And I still am working to fill the CFO job. And that's actually been really challenging. We did hire a veterans coordinator, and then that person didn't end up staying. And so we are looking at filling that. So the key vacancies right now is our CFO, although Dr. Shields is still in that position and will be in that position. The veterans coordinator, Springer office manager, I don't know if you heard that Tina did put in her letter of resignation. And then we are advertising for full-time faculty members, because I mentioned earlier that we really want to have more full-time faculty. I think we're down to only 21 full-time faculty.
I was just gonna ask about Springer.
So, and I think that Dr. Romero, when I met with her yesterday, they've got a job description. They're looking at that. They're trying to decide what is the best hours for the Springer. Should we reevaluate that and look at that position? So.
On that,
Trustee Beal?
that's trustees, Lisa's stuff, but do they have classes there in Springer?
So there are not 4 credit classes that happen. There's the Rough Rider mentorship program that happens there. There's community ed classes that happen there. We are talking, we're gonna have these CDL classes that are gonna be happening there. We do have woodworking, we have welding, we have these facilities. We would like that. I had conversations with the superintendent in Springer about trying to be able to use those facilities, and that is something that we're looking at. So I will say that I think when you were there, Louise, you had in-person classes that were happening.
We had a bunch of time.
And I'm gonna say that even my time at Highlands and my time at Luna, getting students to actually come on campus has been one of the biggest challenges. If they can take the class online, that's what they want to do. Now, we have a lot of programs that students have to come in person, right? And so whether we have, I know several people I think have gotten woodworking certifications, what we're really trying to focus on, and this is one of the reasons that I sort of redesigned Tanya Giddings' position to be government and community relations, is to really work with our communities to try to say, what are those workforce needs? And so if we need to have a water class in Springer or in Santa Rosa, EMT is something that I restarted that program as an academic director. And we did have 1 semester when it was at Santa Rosa, and our current academic director, Coach Wright, is actually working on trying to get that with Alan and trying to get those courses as well. So I think that there are definitely opportunities to build in-person classes. They're not gonna be English, they're not gonna be history, they're not gonna be a biology class. But I think there's definitely opportunities for workforce development, and we wanna look at those opportunities that we have.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. So, have you reached out like to the county commission and reached out to the village?
Yes, we actually have. And so we've had, and I've had meetings with Bo Lopez there. We've looked at that. We do have that something. Dr. Shields went out there and visited. Dr. Romero's gone out. I've gone out several times to Santa Rosa. I met with Guadalupe County commissioners. I would like to do more of that right now. I'm monthly attending the city council meetings here in town. I would like to be able to get to the Guadalupe County. They were meeting last year when I was trying to get there. It took like 4 months to get there because they were meeting the same time we were having board meetings. And so I think that's something we need to look at. But yes, that is something, and that is one of the reasons that now that we got out of the legislative session, is to really try to figure out how we can work with those small towns and say, what are your workforce needs?
And I know this isn't part of this, but seems like a good place to talk about it is, I sent an email because the commissioners, two of them from Warren County reached out to me as to what we were gonna do with that facility, because we know it doesn't belong to Luna, it belongs to Warren County. And we don't want to terminate any kind of relationship that we have right there for now. So they wanted to know, and they gave me the name of a person, and I sent the email to yourself and Dr. Romero so that you could act on it.
So I actually missed that email because it came from your personal email and not from your, but I did, Dr. Romero pointed that email out.
Okay,
And so anyway, and absolutely, those are the conversations. So we're gonna have a town meeting in April, actually in Mora, and saying how are we gonna do that? We talked about having that in April for Villanueva, right? And we are scheduling those for Santa Rosa and Springer. That is what we wanna do. So those are the conversations that we wanna have. We definitely wanna have those conversations and think about that.
okay, so April, thank you, I'll get back to
Yeah.
the two of them.
Yes. So, executing effective personnel policies and procedures. We do have a staff and faculty handbook. That is something that I learned early on as an administrator, that I don't make a decision without looking at a handbook. And anybody that meets with me, I pull up with Dr. Romero, I meet with her and we pull up the handbook and we say, what does the handbook say? Is there a grievance? What does our policy say? That is something that I learned early on, and I am a rule follower. I'm not good at breaking rules. And so anyway, so we do work on following that. Our handbook has not been updated since 2012. And when I started at Luna, it was in shared governance they had a handbook, it was decided to combine it. And for a lot of different reasons, I'm not gonna take the time, but I'm happy to answer any questions on that. And for a lot of various reasons, mostly we've had such turnover in HR. We've had a lot of other situations that we've been dealing with it, and changes in shared governance, a whole lot of things. We had a really productive meeting. I think that all the staff senate and faculty senate have looked at that. They've given their comments. Dr. Romero's done a lot of work on that, and we have a path forward to try to get that updated. Christy spent a lot of work trying to make sure it was up to date on all of our policies. And so we're hoping that we can go to a new policy, a new handbook, which is 14 years later, by that. Now, I was at Highlands, and I'm gonna say that Highlands has the same issue with their faculty handbooks and staff handbooks as well. And so, and that's one of the reasons that we talked about going to one handbook, because really doing these kinds of things on top of your regular job is difficult. And a lot of times it's not always easy to do. So implementing supervisor accountability training, that's something I actually looked at last summer when I was having definitely some issues in terms of performance of employees, and trying to get supervisors to just send to HR. So HR is not, they're really to facilitate policy. They are not to deal with employee performance concerns. They can facilitate that, but that really needs to be done by the supervisor. And so a lot of times we have somebody that'll just say, if we have some issue that's happening, they'll just say, go to HR, go to HR. And what we're trying to do is say, if you need help, let's get the supervisors the training that they need. And actually giving feedback to people is very difficult. It's not easy. Nobody wants to do it. I would love to just tell everybody all the time that they're doing a fantastic job. However, what I know is that I've learned more from my failures than from my successes. And that is one of the questions that I ask every candidate that comes to Luna, is give me an example of a time that you failed professionally and what you learned from it. And so, and sometimes people come up with this I had one person one time that said, I've never failed. I didn't hire that person. Right, we learn, and that's what you say, you see that the wide world of sports, they were just talking about that, of all those crashes, right? Of people getting up and doing that. So, anyway, so I think that this is something that we're doing. The self-evaluation I already talked about, and then we're gonna be moving to this new Workday performance appraisal process next year. Something that we looked at in spring of '24 to actually try to move to that, and just because I haven't had any continuity in the HR department, that hasn't happened, but every HR director I've told to do work on that.
And this will be an online,
Yes, and so you put it in online, you put in and you process it, and you can still make a PDF from it and everything. Anything in Workday, actually, that's really a wonderful thing about Workday. You might be looking at something, any screen that you're looking at in Workday, you can export to Excel, you can export to PDF, you can export any way that you need to do, which is really wonderful.
so they'll be doing a self-appraisal.
So what will happen in the new system is that the employees working with their supervisors will be setting goals for the year. And so we would have it, and I actually have looked at it, their other schools are using it currently, and our faculty has looked at it. We will be looking at that, they'll be using a faculty performance appraisal, but people will be setting their goals starting when the faculty come back in the fall. But they will be working with their supervisors on that, so you can't just make up whatever goals they want. Just like I'm working with the board. We all have bosses. And so I don't have a lot of slides on board president relationships. These were the items that you had mentioned that I needed to work on, is having an honest and transparent relationship with the board trustees, provide complete and relevant information and data when I'm requiring board action, accepting and implementing constructive criticism, reporting to the board on college operations, interacting with the board professionally, providing necessary support to board for board operations, and developing and implementing the requested board training in conjunction with the board, the BOT. And so I actually think that I've done this the last 2 years. I think I've been very honest. I think I've been very transparent. I'm very transparent with all the people that I work with. And so I feel like that I've done that. I actually feel that I spend a lot of time thinking about giving you the background information at committee meetings for you to be able to take proper action and answering those questions. You know, it's hard to take criticism. We don't always take criticism well. And, you know, I remember in my very first job, I had my 6-month review, and it was all positive. There was not one negative thing there. And then afterwards they said, okay, well, we're not gonna have you do this anymore. We're not gonna have you do this anymore. We're not gonna have you do this anymore. And I said, well, that's a major part of my job. And they go, well, we have concerns about how you're doing it. And I said, well, you didn't bring it up in my evaluation. And they said, well, we didn't want to hurt your feelings. In my very first professional job. And I said, how am I gonna grow? How am I gonna learn? What am I gonna do with that, right? And so, and you know, for me, and I have people, I'm emotional, I might cry, I'm loud, I'm all that, that's me. It's how I've been my whole life. But what I've said is, even if I'm upset, even if I'm crying, and I've had people in this, Luna tell me this as well, even if they're crying, even if they don't want to hear what they hear, what I'm telling them, and they're upset, they realize that that's the information that they need to get. Nobody likes to receive criticism, right? But criticism, if it's constructive, and we really have, I try to tell people, don't come to me with a problem unless you have a solution. Figure out a solution. And so in the housing, this is how we bring out the candle. We all think about solutions. How can we figure it out? So I was really devastated when I realized that we weren't going to have housing in August, right? But then immediately I was like on the phone with Highlands University. I was on the phone with Super 8. I am a problem solver. That is who I am. And that is why I've been successful in every position that I've had. And that is why I feel like I've been successful at Luna. So I think one of the things that we had was a great swearing in. We had a great Hispano roundtable. And I think that the board has participated in ACCT training, HLC training, and I think that's really wonderful. And Leslie just yesterday mentioned an ACCT training in August that is recommended for new board members, and so in California. And I think, I don't know when the early registration deadline is, but I really would encourage you, Leslie will share that information, and I encourage the trustees to think about attending that. So I know I've taken quite a bit of time, and I've talked about this and given this information in my weekly reports and in my board reports. But just upcoming priorities over the next 2 years. Student housing obviously is my #1 thing that keeps me up at night. The audits are the other thing, and when I was the CFO, they kept me up more. Now I'm thankful that other people are staying up all night worrying about it, and it's not me so much, although I still am losing sleep over that. The chess workday implementation that's going live in September of 2027 with a whole bunch of milestones. I don't know how many deadlines, Gloria, how many? And every week, a lot, right? Jeff is on that a lot that we have going on. There's deadlines from March until whenever. HLC accreditation, we're off monitoring now. This is the first time in over 12 years that we haven't been on any monitoring at all. I actually called our HLC liaison and she said, Luna's always been in trouble. You're off monitoring now. Congratulations. Congratulations to your team. And so we have that comprehensive visit that is under new criteria. So the HLC every so many years revises their criteria. And so they went from 6 criteria down to 4 criteria. And so we have to do a full comprehensive visit in November of 2027. And one of the reasons that I didn't actually we asked for capital outlay for the allied health building and for the technology buildings last year, my first year as president. We did ask for that funding. They didn't give it to us, primarily because of our audit situation. This year, they did give it to us, but we have a lot of projects that are backlogged. And we've discussed this a lot. We're looking at it. We are making progress on all of these, but I'm gonna say that for the size of staff that we are, having this many different capital outlay projects, if we did nothing, if we had a team that a lot of us worked, Justin working on top of the housing on these capital outlay projects, this is a lot of projects to try to get done. And they're all critical. They're all critical. And we are making progress on that. I've sort of reorganized some of the reporting structure and promoted some people internally and had people look at that and try to say, how can we get some more support on making sure that our projects stay online? I did get a update on sort of the building of the Media Education Center and what that involved and the number of change orders that were involved in that. It didn't end up being at all what they had originally thought. And I don't want to be that college. I don't want to be the college that's not doing it right. I want to be the college that's doing it and making all those deadlines. So what I'm asking for is for you to consider to extend my contract through June of 28 to ensure that we can make these priorities. So I know you're not deciding on that today, but that's my request. And I stand for any additional questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr. Lee.
You're welcome.
Item number 6, executive session not scheduled for this meeting. Item number 7, announcement of date, time, and location of next board meeting. Special session budget meeting Tuesday, March the 31st at 10. Regular board of trustees meeting Tuesday, April 14th at 10. And now I would like to call for adjournment, after which the board of trustees can pass their forms to the ladies, to either Vice Chair Portillo's or myself, and please only the items that are involved will be total average and gives to Dr. Lindsay. Thank you very all.
Yeah, that's not.
Well, we're only going to look at those examples. We had agreed when we spoke to her. Thank you. I would like a motion to adjourn. I did all.
Second.
And, roll call?
Madam Chair, Dr. Phyllis Martinez,
Yes.
Madam Vice Chair, Louise Martins.
Yes.
Secretary Mark Dominguez,
Yes.
trustee Andrea Saki,
Yes.
trustee Richard Beal,
Yes.
trustee Rolando Pedrano,
Yes.
trustee Rosalie Ortega.
Thank you. No, she didn't today. Well, okay, so we cannot have a caution here. The attorney has recommended or told us that we cannot have any discussion whatsoever. You just, rate the president on the forms, pass them to myself or to vice chair appeals. Her and I will stay here and count and, be able to deliver Dr. Linder one shortly after a while.